What were those early days? What did those early days look like as y'all were really figuring this out together? A lot of people fell in insurance. You're probably seeing people fell all around you.
Mm-hmm.
What was it about y'all that helped you stick it out and make it?
Well, for me, I had to. I had 3 kids that I was it. And so they were depending on me, and I couldn't really, let them down. There was a lot of obstacles along the way and days where I just wanted to stay in bed, but I couldn't because I had to get them up and off to school. And to be honest, there were some days probably I did go back to bed and, wallowed in my frustrations. But really, we just had a real why, and we cut off all other opportunities, and this was it. So
those days were a real struggle. They were a real struggle. Some people will start in this industry with dollars to market with, and some people start with nothing, and we started with zero. We had zero. So it was policy 1 plus policy 2 plus policy 3 until we built something that had some kind of residual income. And so the beginning was a struggle because, you're behind. You have rent and you have car payments and you have all these expenses, and we had zero income. So it was a struggle to get started, and but we just gutted it out one at a time.
Welcome back to the CA Power Players podcast, live every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Today I got a special guest. I've got a special couple, a power couple doing some big stuff in the health insurance world. Mr. Steve Amy Knirsch of Polaris Agency. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Excited to talk through. Y'all have done a lot, man. I've got like a whole page of stuff I already want to talk through. We haven't even started yet, right? Like, these are 2 impressive people. I would love to know, because you started Polaris Agency, started the end of 2011. Have y'all always done this together? Has that always been the goal?
So I started in the end of 2011, and I was a single mom at the time, didn't know Steve, and was just forging through life with me and the kids, and found myself, on food stamps. I had basically $10,000 that I cashed out on life insurance benefit to get life going again. It doesn't take a mathematical genius to figure out 3 kids and 10,000 doesn't last very long because they were not compliant at just eating 1 ramen noodle package a day. So I had to figure out something. And I have a master's degree in health and wellness, and I thought I could just jump back into the field, and it didn't work out that way. Health insurance came across my lap and, literally laughed out loud. No little kid in career classes like, "Ooh, I want to be in health insurance when I grow up," except for our kids now. So, but it was like I really just needed to figure out something. And so I'm like, okay, God, if this is what you have for me, which nothing else is working out, I'm all about it. So just sat at the feet of really successful people and learned from them and just replicated the recipe. Then I met Steve in 2012. He was the new guy in the office, moved from Arizona, which I'm like, no guy's moving to Kansas City from Arizona unless it's for a chick. So he's probably taken it. And didn't really think that much about it because I really wasn't looking for that. And then we had a team event a few weeks later, and we ended up talking till about 4 a.m. and that was the end of that and the beginning of us.
Yeah.
And tell him how you got into the business.
Yeah. So I came from the golf industry. 18 years in the golf industry, 10 years as a golf professional, 8 years selling golf equipment wholesale. And so the wholesale part of golf was my first taste of an entrepreneur. Your own business, you get straight commission, you sell something, you earn money, and if you don't, you don't. And so then when the golf industry was struggling in 2008 with the rest of the economy, I came to Kansas City for this opportunity, met Amy, and we kind of never looked back ever since. And yes, it was the 2 of us together. It wasn't really the idea in the beginning, but it became that. And we just kind of joined forces together and decided that we're going to figure it out. If we weren't trained properly in the first place, we were going to figure it out, and we figured it out to the best of our ability, you know.
So it really took what we were each really good at. So I continued to produce, and Steve took over training the team and fielding those calls from the team, so we could really work on both sides of the business. So
yeah, divide and conquer kind of idea.
Yes, I love it. Well, what were those early days? What did those early days look like as you were really figuring this out together? A lot of people fell in insurance. You're probably seeing people fell all around you. Mm-hmm. What was it about y'all that helped you stick it out and make it?
Well, for me, I had to. I had 3 kids that need. I mean, I was it, and so they were depending on me, and I couldn't really, let them down. There was a lot of obstacles along the way, and days where I just wanted to stay in bed, but I couldn't because I had to get them up and off to school. And to be honest, there were some days probably I did go back to bed and wallowed in my frustrations. But really, we just had a real why, and we cut off all other opportunities, and this was it. So we had to figure it out. And when we would go to events, and we knew who was successful and who was good, and we would make a list of people. We are not leaving until we talk to each of these people and ask them questions and find out what they're doing, and then implement those into our life. Maybe we don't want to work 20 hours a day like some of them, but we knew we could learn from what they were doing and make that our own. Not creating the recipe, but just molding that into our life. So
those days were a real struggle. They were a real struggle. Some people will start in this industry with dollars to market with, and some people start with nothing, and we started with zero. We had zero. So it was policy 1 plus policy 2 plus policy 3 until we built something that had some kind of residual income. And so the beginning was a struggle because you're behind. You have rent, and you have car payments, and you have all these expenses, and we had zero income. So it was a struggle to get started, and but we just gutted it out one at a time.
How much different is it going from being a golf pro and selling golf clubs to selling health insurance?
It was actually a big difference, because I could talk about golf all day long. I know golf. I know the industry. I know a lot of the people. I know how it works.
He's also a good golfer. For those that haven't played golf with Steve yet, right? We got the chance to play in Power Players in Puerto Rico. Yeah. Dude's a good golfer, super consistent, hits the ball really straight. If you're struggling with your golf game, he can probably help you with that too. Okay.
Yeah, and I did sign up for 8% golf tournament today. Yeah. So
nice. I love it. 8%. Yeah, for first golf tournament with 8% Nation conference in Dallas. Keep going. Sorry, I interrupted you about golf, but I'm just kind of curious, man, how it relates, how it didn't relate, how it, what you learned from it that you were able to use and apply in selling insurance.
So I realized quickly that it's about people and relationships, and so you build relationships in the golf industry, and then people do business with you. So I realized that it's that kind of a scale, except you're dealing with individuals or families or maybe small businesses, whatever it might be. You're building a relationship with somebody who's going to do business with you. And so there's a lot of similarities in that respect. In the golf industry, you're either on the phone setting appointments, or you are out on your feet. You're knocking on doors and going into businesses, golf shops, and selling your wares. So it's not very different than health insurance, although the product is different, right?
Sure.
The difference would be that if I went out and I sold 30, 40, 100 golf clubs in a day, then I could go play golf the rest of the day. And Amy doesn't really let me go play golf if I don't sell a couple policies, or a couple clients. But
I love it.
Or when you sell insurance and you continue to get paid,
that's true.
Then you can eventually go golfing a lot more often.
Yeah.
There you go. That's right. You build up enough residual, you can golf as much as you want, right?
Right.
That's good. And Amy, when you look back early in your career, I know you've been through a lot. I know y'all both have. Talk through some of that, because there's a lot of agents out there that will see y'all now. They'll see you making hundreds of thousands of dollars, soon to be making millions of dollars in this industry, and you're helping a lot of people and doing a lot of cool stuff and writing books and traveling the world. And Steve's getting his pilot's license, right? And you're doing all this stuff. But maybe they can't relate to all that stuff now, but they could probably relate to the story and what y'all have been through and kind of the ride and the journey.
Sure. Honestly, at the beginning, my goal was just to feed my kids. It was food, clothing, shelter. That's all. I was just like, my expenses were here, my income was here, and I just wanted to get here and maybe here, so it wasn't quite so stressful. And so like Steve said, it was just a policy at a time, learning at a time. Shortly after I started, I didn't really have any grandparents growing up, but my uncle was like the grandparent to me, and he was killed in a tragic farming accident. A few months later, my brother was diagnosed with myocarditis. He was a PE teacher and coach, and he ran and lifted. He was really healthy. He got the flu over Thanksgiving. By Christmas, he was in heart failure. They did some cool things, but so it's just this domino effect, it seemed like, where it was just loss of all the closest people to us. So as then went for my brother, then my sister had mesothelioma cancer, and our best friend who married us in Colorado died in his sleep. And it was just a lot of my biological father, my parents died 2 days apart, all in a small window of time. And so it was just a lot of grief and loss, and just trying to maneuver your way through the day sometimes. And, other people may not be able to relate to loss that way, but, loss of a marriage, a loss of how you thought your life was going to look like, loss of financial stability, I lost my health, had a major health diagnosis that I'm still struggle with, so it's just a lot, but each one of those things can be a lot, but it's just really knowing that God is going to take you through that. He's going to teach you something and grow you into somebody to do bigger things than you ever could have been when you were back in this place. So back to the beginning, where I just thought all it was food, clothing, shelter, had God showed me today, I'd have been like, yeah, whatever. I can't do all of that. There's no way. I'm just trying to be a mom and feed my kids. So I think he just takes you where you're at. He brings you through the struggles. He grows you and molds you and builds you through those things. And then you take another step into the next thing he has for you, And now it's this crazy multi-million-dollar agency with, agents across the country. Our kids are now working in the business. We're building a legacy for our kids. And like, it's crazy. But there was a period of time went through, the normal fear of failure, which most everybody has. And then it got to this place where, now my income met and barely exceeded my expenses. And I'm like, okay, I think I'm good. Then I had this fear of success, because there's a lot of arrogancy issues, which I don't enjoy with people that are successful or have a lot of money. So I just was putting a brake on it myself, And then in one of the quiet times with the Lord, he's like, but Amy, think of all of the people that we can help with all the extra. I'm like, oh, holy smokes. Yep, I'm down. I'm good. Whatever you want. And literally, even though we all know it's God's anyway, we literally said, okay, here you go. I'm laying it down at your feet. I want you to do whatever you want. If you want to blow this thing up, you want to shut it down, I will have peace with that, because I know that you have a bigger and better plan. We don't even know if you want us to recruit, you want us to just keep selling and helping people. I don't know. So just show us what you want. And literally the next day, the phone is ringing. People come inbound calls about both of those sides of the opportunity. I'm like, okay, I see you. I got you. And so he can show the way, but then you have to make sure that you do your part and do the actions so you can meet together and then do big things, So yeah, our business increased over 100% the next 3 years. Just in that conversation. So
that's so awesome.
So, I guess I just encourage people that when you're feeling, because honestly, we all want to quit every day, multiple times a day in the beginning, then maybe once a week, then once a month. And there's still times I'm like, oh yeah, no, I'm not quitting, but so you just have to have the fortitude to know why you're doing what you're doing. And that in this business, it may not be glamorous. It's not as glamorous being an insurance agent, maybe, as it is, being in the golf industry. It's a lot more fun. But what we do is super important. We have people's financial futures in our life, and how we conduct our business and take care of them really makes an impact on them, and generationally, and hopefully we're making an impact on them eternally too. So
Yes.
so just keep going and don't quit. The only people that fail are really the ones that don't quit and aren't willing to do whatever it takes. In the beginning, like Steve said, we didn't have any money, so we had to do all the uncomfortable things, walking and talking, walking into businesses, introducing yourself, joining the chamber, paying $20 some a month because I can't afford to pay, $300 some a year, and just doing the stuff that you don't really want to do, but you have to. And, if you're not willing to do it, then you have to be willing to accept the consequences, good or bad. And then therefore, if you have a team, they're following you. So you can't tell them to go door knock if you won't go door knock,
That's right. Well, you guys are special people. You have huge hearts. I know you care a ton. People watching this can learn a ton from you. Steve, how did that make you feel, buddy? And when y'all were going through all this, what were you thinking? Because, you guys have some experience in business in general. Most people in this industry, they go through what y'all been through. They would not have made it on the other side. They would have quit. They would have thrown in the towel. What were you thinking, and what advice can you give?
Well, I don't think either one of us are quitters. No matter how bad it gets or what's going on, we just keep going. There might be a small period where we need a little time, but other than that, we just don't quit. I think when you look at the importance of what we do, and you look at what the importance of what we were doing for our family, I think that right there is, just the thing that kept us going. It's the first thing that kept us going. After that, it was a bigger vision of what we can do, how people we can help, things we can do. And then honestly, after that, it was going to our first 8%, and our first 8% opened our mind 10 times what we thought we were capable of. And so the numbers, when I remember you're write down a goal, write down a number, and Amy wrote down a number, I wrote down a number independently of each other, and we then shared them with each other as the same number. Oh. And it was just and it was way more than, it was 10 times what we thought we could ever do. And
it was a crazy number.
Yeah.
And we're I don't know, God just said, I'm seriously, what? Okay, I'll write it down. But
I wrote it down. I crossed it. I crossed it out. I made half. I put it half. Right. I took half of it, and then I crossed that out, and I put it back to the number that it was, and then it was the same number she had. So
that is awesome.
So I guess the thing for other people to understand is that, one, you just don't quit. Number one. Yeah. Number two, you need to have a bigger purpose than just your wallet. Right. There's got to be a bigger purpose than that. And three, you have to open up your mind to what you think is impossible today, because what is impossible today may not be impossible tomorrow.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Amy, I want to jump to you. You talked about something earlier that I think really relates to your book that I want to bring out as well. Amy's the author of the book, The Fire Within You. You mentioned fear of success. A lot of people go through that, just because it feels like it's all about you, I still struggle with it in a lot of ways. I try not to let that show, but you know what I mean? It's just human nature. It's normal. Mm-hmm. Did you go through some of that when you were writing the book?
Yeah, of course. God had been nudging me for a few years, to share the story, to just be vulnerable and transparent. And there's some not very pretty stuff in there, but it's all there to try to relate to other people. And so it was just, Satan trying to tell me, who are you to tell anybody? You don't have every single thing together in your life. You need to wait until you have all your stuff together. And, we all know that doesn't ever happen. And so, even though the book is about a lot of the struggles, it's not about me. It's utilizing those stories to try to provide hope and inspiration, because anybody can do this. Anybody can
Mhm.
live a life that you haven't even dreamed of. There's nothing about anyone that really can keep them down other than themselves and their willingness to bet on yourself, but really to do it for the benefit of other people. And I think when you change your mindset from, the success and like, the cars or the house and the boat and the whatever, but how can I use that to minister really to other people and to bless other people? So now when we're talking about real estate in other places, of course, places we like to go, but we want to do that so that we can provide a place for retreats, provide a getaway for families who can't afford to go on a vacation, ways to, help give a hand up to other people, not a hand out necessarily, and to open their mind to what other things are possible in their life. So I think that's really was the change, the mindset change for me. So just how God would want us to use those things to love other people,
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that you are doing now too, there's a couple things I want to finish with that I have questions about. One is looking at the humble beginnings, where y'all came from to where you are now. I mean, Amy, if we just talk about you specifically, single mom on food stamps to you are now running a multi-million-dollar agency. When you think about all the specifics, how do y'all now think so much bigger than you did back then? Because there's other people that are in y'all's shoes a decade ago, 2 decades ago, whatever, that are having trouble relating. Because you're not talking about houses and cars, all that kind of stuff, but you are talking about making some good money and helping a lot of people in some special ways. How do you help them? But also, why? How do y'all think at such a bigger level now than you did then?
I think for us, it's literally, and I know this is a little cliche when you're in these groups, but getting in the room with other people who think bigger, who are more successful. I mean, I was a 1% producer where we were before, and hadn't really, been to some stuff, but not rooms like 8%, and really to be more successful than that in the environment we were in meant you worked all the time and your family went to the side, or I don't know, there's some other like things that just we weren't willing to participate in. And so when we got in the room at 8%, and we're like, holy smokes, like there is so much more to this than what we are doing. 1% here is great, but like, I don't know, it just was mind blowing really to open our minds. So I tell everybody, get in the room, get around more successful people. When you think that you've arrived, you probably haven't.
That's right.
There's always more to learn, always ways to grow personally and professionally. And, I would say for me anyway, that's the biggest thing. And, working on always reading and growing and learning, so just get in the room, get around, people that are way more successful than you. Maybe you create your own referral group or something, and pick people that are killing it, to be in your group. Right? And so you have your bigger group right within your local area, and then, plugging into power players. I mean, huge, huge, just the relationships that you make and the people that you learn from, and you become friends, but you're like, holy cow, like, I don't know, it's just super cool. So I think for me, that's a huge thing, getting into the room and going to places that opened my mind too, because again, like literally there was a week when I had to go, do I put gas in my car? Or do I feed my kids? Because I can't do both. To when then later, fast forward several years, taking my son on an insurance paid trip to Austria. I mean, like went from where he didn't order school annual because it cost $60 and mom didn't have $60 to going and doing things like that. Right. So, so when you get in those places and you open people's experiences, to like, holy cow, like what? You know,
Yeah.
not Branson, but Austria.
Yeah, exactly. How crazy is that? Steve, how nuts is that, man? Like I'm over here getting goosebumps just listening to all this.
Yeah, that was a cool experience. That was a really cool experience. Yeah, there were times like the first trip we ever took in the industry. We literally went to the airport and we're like, okay, what card do we use to pay for our bags? That was like, we were like, how do we pay for our bags? You know, and
Wow.
and it was an all expenses paid trip. You know, so and then fast forward, it's like, let's go to Austria. Nelson, you want to go? Let's go. You know, and we offered it to the youngest as well. She didn't want to go for some reason, but Nelson went. We got to play golf in the oldest golf club in Austria. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool.
yeah.
Well, you guys are also we talked about this earlier, and I when I think about y'all, I do think about this. Like with what you are doing, you're doing a great job of this, by the way, too. So definitely, obviously, keep it up. I feel like you guys are doing a phenomenal job of giving people hope that they too can have what you want or what you have and more. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Where does that come from? Has that always been? I mean, originally you were just probably like trying to give yourself some hope, right? And now you're giving it to masses of people. You're in the middle of creating. I know Amy, you mentioned this to me recently about a prayer group, you know,
Mm-hmm.
that meets often.
Yeah.
I know faith's really important to y'all as it is to me too. How all are y'all like? In what ways are y'all giving hope and why?
You know, I don't even know that we consciously think about trying to give hope to people. It's just telling our story and showing it through our actions. I think that's for us. I think that's how we do it. And if people are paying attention, that's fantastic. That's great. We don't go out seeking accolades for anything.
Sure.
It's just doing what we do and saying what we say. And you know, if people like that, then that's fantastic. If they want to know more, then we're willing to share more. So
Yes.
We like to do some just random acts of kindness. Sometimes we'll do it with the team. Sometimes we do it with the family, you know, where we just go, like, for example, it's back to school shopping and there's tax-free weekend here in Missouri. So we'll go to Target and we'll buy a boatload of gift cards. And then we just pray in the store and we just send everybody out and hand out cards. We do not have Polaris on shirts, hats, nothing. We don't want any, it's not about us. It's about just blessing people, you know?
Cool.
So those kind of things, just giving them hope that there are people in the world that really care and want to give for no expectation of anything back. No accolades, no thanks, no, you know, in the spotlight, no anything like that. So I think it's just, you know, little things to help. Because I know when I was a single mom like that, $25, $50, like that's a huge thing, you know? So I think it's that, like Steve said, just trying to live the example. And, but, you know, in this industry, you know, I went from have a degree, made a decent living, but you know, you're still trading time for dollars. And so when this came across my lap, like I said, I laughed about whatever, health insurance. Okay. And then I go talk to them and I'm like, what, commission only? What the heck is that? Like, that doesn't even sound very legit, but
who would do that?
Yeah, people do that. Like, that's kind of scary. But my goodness, you know, wouldn't do anything else now. There's no way anybody's ever going to tell me what I'm worth when I'm working, when I'm not working, and whatever, you know. So I think just opening people's minds into thinking outside of the box of what is normal for them or their family or their upbringing. You know, we didn't grow up with, I mean, my dad was a farmer, which is obviously the ultimate entrepreneur, really. But other than that, there was no like walking you through how to be an entrepreneur, how to, you know, think like that. So most of us weren't thinking, or we weren't thinking like that. So, so anyway, I think those things of hope in that way. And I really feel like everybody has some sort of fire within them that they know that there's bigger things for them in life. They just are afraid, or maybe they don't even know what that is, or they don't know how to, but no,
Right.
None of that. Let's get to the place where we're like ready to deal with it and move forward. So.
Yeah. your book, how do they do that?
It is on Amazon. So you just go to Amazon and look up The Fire Within You by Amy J. Searcy, and it's there for the taking.
I love it. The Fire Within You on Amazon. Also, if they want to learn more about touch with you too, what do you recommend?
How they contact us?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can contact us through our emails, and it's Steve at thepolarisagency.com. So that's THE polarisagency.com, and Amy at thepolarisagency.com.
I love it.
And then from there, they can have our cell phone numbers. They can contact us anytime.
We have a website, we have Facebook, we have Instagram. You know.
Yeah, we do have Instagram, don't we?
It works. We figured that out earlier, right?
I know.
I love it. Well, you guys are incredible. I appreciate the amazing words today and sharing your story. You are doing special stuff. So thank you so much for your time today. Appreciate you being on the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cody. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you. If you guys are listening, you're watching, keep listening and watching. Make sure you go check out and follow Steve and Amy Knirsch. Thanks for listening. We'll see you on the next podcast.
Hey, if you enjoyed this, I got another one you're going to love. It's right there. Click on it. See you in there.
So we've had a lot of unlicensed agents finding us, following our stuff, or newly licensed, just joining the business, and you're thinking like, dude, what is the life insurance career like? What's an insurance career like overall? Well, I want you to think about the vision.